All right, it's freezing out. Tried to film outside. You'll see in like the couple of videos, either before or after this video, what I was talking about in my car, coming to you with the second installment of, I don't remember the list, helpful something YouTube comments. Got a few things like unclear or incorrect. So let's go to the first one. I'll make some room over there. First one about the Tour de France. Basically, all the facts you had about the Tour de France guy were outright wrong. You're referencing Biniam Girmay. Girmay didn't win the Tour de France. He was the first black cyclist to win one particular stage of the Tour de France. And then towards the bottom, I can't read every word, it's way too long. He was born in Africa, spent time in Switzerland, lives in France. Okay, for one, this guy seems a little jaded, but usually give people the benefit of the doubt that they're not like really nasty at first, even though there are a few language choices in there that it seems like the guy's like really mad at me for relaying a conversation that happened at the poker table. But him and a few other people said it. I think he was the first. That cyclist, yeah, didn't win the Tour de France, but he won a stage. Still very impressive, but no, the conversation at the table, people said he won the Tour de France. Also, never lived in the US. Pretty sure I said African American. Black African, who he lives in Europe now. So not African American, but he is African. And yeah, interesting. It was weird thinking back to that conversation. Like, the dealer got some of the parts right. Like, have no problem with the dealer. Kind of like remembering that player in seat 8 was related to this cyclist and getting like some parts right, some parts wrong. It's odd that the player in seat 8, who is this cyclist's uncle, got plenty of the information wrong. But his name was never mentioned at the table, so it was tough to look it up. And then when some people in that video, that Delaware Park video, mentioned this guy, a lot easier to look up knowing his name. And yeah, he won a single stage of the Tour de France, which still awesome, but didn't win the whole race. Second one, Wind Creek still has poker. They switched from Bravo to Atlas. Interesting. So I knew they were on Bravo at one point. That's why I was checking Bravo a lot in like the 10 days, 2 weeks leading up to my trip to Eastern Pennsylvania. Checked Bravo many times and it always looked odd. I think the one time I checked Atlas thinking that might be the case, I think it just happened to be very late at night where the room was probably just dark. I think it was like 4 a.m. on a weekday, and I happened to go on Atlas, check what was going on at Sands, which you probably call Wind Creek, and it showed no games, which like made me think, all right, this is what I'm seeing on Bravo. There's just like no information here. It must have been no games just because it was like 4 a.m. on a Wednesday. Not that there was just no information coming from Atlas. If it were like in the evening that day, probably would have shown games, and then I would have known they just switched to Atlas. But so thanks. This commenter and several others said the same thing. Figured someone would have the correct information. No big deal that I missed going there, because there will be opportunities to go there in the future. And Morgantown. Morgantown was one where I knew things were running. It was just like kind of too out of the way. So it's not a bad thing that I still have rooms in Eastern Pennsylvania that I haven't been to. I'll keep them on my list and hopefully get there in the future. All right, last one in the corner there. This is about, you can read it word for word if you want. It's about the benefits of the Caesars credit card. I knew there was a sign-on bonus. It used to be $10,000. You would sign up for the credit card. It was a one-time thing per lifetime. When you first signed up, there would be a 10,000 tier credit bonus. And I was like holding on to that in case I ever needed that to earn status. That's 2/3 of the way to diamond status. And it's been lowered and lowered since it used to be 10,000. Now it's down to just 2,500 as your sign-on bonus, which still saves you, how much does it save you? Like 150 hours or something? It's not nothing, but it's not what it used to be. I didn't know every calendar year you could earn 5,000 tier credits based on your spending with the credit card. So this user and this commenter, viewer, and other viewers said the same thing. If you spend $5,000 on the credit card, you can get 5,000 tier credits per year. So for me, for the first year, it would be the sign-on bonus of 2,500, and then if I spent enough, 5,000 more, so that would be 7,500 tier credits, which is halfway there. And for all subsequent years, if I spend enough money using the credit card, I would start off at 5,000 on my way to 15,000, only needing 10,000 more. We would make it much more reasonable. Didn't know that. Still don't know if I'm gonna do it though, because it's interesting. Like, if you want to do it, it behooves you to do it early in the year, because I know some people who have gotten to like late November thinking they were just going to play enough to earn their status the hard way, and then they're not so sure, and then they want to sign up for the credit card for the bonus, and they're not even sure if all this like paperwork and all these bureaucratic things will happen before December 31st, and if these bonus tier credits will even come in, bad lighting, and if these bonus tier credits will even come in before the end of the year or not. So if you're gonna do it, you really need to do it like in the early part of the year or the middle. Well, in the early part of the year and the middle, everyone thinks, oh no, I'll just play enough to get it. It's tough to know in January what your year is gonna be like playing at Caesar's properties. So without the psychic abilities to know what the rest of the year is gonna be like, a lot of people just put it off, and then sometimes it becomes too late to use it. But yeah, I guess I have a decision to make. I'll see how much I play early in the year, and I have a decision to make about halfway through. Although it is, I think, easier for me than most to spend the $5,000, because I could do that in one transaction. Probably not every year, probably like every 2 years. Just buy $5,000 worth of Airbnb gift cards, and that's one transaction. And there's the 5,000, and then it's just a matter of waiting a few days, a few weeks for those that tier credit match to come in and actually hit my account. So things to consider, but didn't know. I knew about the sign-on bonus, not about the recurring bonuses. So thanks to that viewer and everyone else who mentioned the same thing. Oh, one more thing I want to mention. In that video, I didn't copy and paste these comments. In that same video where it's talking about earning a diamond again, I said all the Caesars poker rooms in the country that I knew of gave 17 tier credits per hour. Someone told me, I think Wayne, someone told me in Reno it's 32, and someone told me in Windsor, which is in Canada, it's 28. Actually, those two, I don't know, I haven't been there, but that's what they said. But those two commenters saying that made me remember last time I played 1-3 at Harrah's Atlantic City. So they had 1-2 for a very long time with an occasional 2-5 game running. They made a stake in the middle, 1-3. When they first started the 1-3, it was 25.5 tier credits per hour, which is 1.5 the normal amount. The 1-2 game, 17 tier credits per hour, multiply 17 times 1.5, and you get 25.5. So if you're at the table, a lot of people would say 25 or 26 for ease, but officially it was 25.5. So there was one room that I know from experience had a tier credit per hour besides 17, and it was Harrah's Atlantic City for that specific game, 1-3 no limit. Don't know if it's still like that. I didn't play 1-3 last time I was there. It was running, but I was playing the 1-2. So just wanted to give you all that information. Thanks to the commenters who leave some clarifying, helpful comments and such. And here was edition number 2 of this segment. And remember, rice is a spoon food.